Hey everyone, welcome to Inside the Firm. I'm your host, Alex Gore. I'm here with our other host, Lance Cayko. How you doing?
Doing fantastic, buddy.
Hey, so in this podcast, what we talk about is running a firm, the ins and outs of it, everything from getting clients, doing work, and doing our own design build, which I think is huge. So if you're interested in the inner workings, welcome to Inside the Firm.
Welcome, welcome.
Hey, so you just took your contractor's test.
I did, and successfully passed.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Side note, Alex also passed PPP this week.
Woo! So now I'm moving into 5.0. But let's focus on that because I don't think a lot of architects take the contractor's test. And my first question to you is, can you recap what you needed to study for it and how you studied?
Okay, so let's give everybody a very quick overview. There's three types of contractor's license: a C, a B, and an A. A B is so an A is you could build anything.
Yep.
A B, anything commercial and residential, 3 stories or under. And then C is just a single family house. So I took the B because that's what we need for our development.
Yep.
So what you need to study for the B is different than the A and the C. For the B in particular, you need to study the IRC, the International Residential Code. You need to study the International Building Code, the IBC, and then you need to study the Concrete Manual. I think it's American Concrete Standards International, something like that.
We'll put a link to it.
We'll put a link to it, right? Yeah. What I did was,
since you can bring those books to the test,
you can bring those books. You can mark in them. You can highlight stuff. If you go to the ICC, so the International Code Council, they will tell you exactly what you can and cannot bring. You can also bring a scale. You can bring a calculator. And so, but you can't.
Can you bring a construction calculator? Or would that not be necessary? Because some of those calculators can do rise over run percentage.
You can bring a construction calculator.
Yeah.
Scientific calculator. They didn't have any restrictions on that for sure. I forgot to bring a calculator, and so
nice.
They gave me one. And it was just a little crappy one. But I only needed it for maybe 3 questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
So setting the scene, Lance sits down, has the computer, has his book. So you didn't bring the IRC for whatever reason.
So let's back up just quickly here.
Yeah.
I didn't bring the IRC, and I didn't study the IRC because we swim in the IRC for the last almost a decade now.
Ballsy.
So I feel like we're in good shape, and I really didn't need to. I mean, we just kind of know all the general codes backwards and forwards for the IRC.
Yep.
The IBC, to be honest with you, has been a life like a goal since I passed the architecture test. I need to just read through the whole thing. So this forced me to read through the whole thing. Okay. Yep. So what I did was, I would recommend if you're looking to make a similar leap like us, forget the IRC. You already know it. But you should, and then
unless you're in a commercial firm.
Unless you're in a commercial firm, then read it because the IRC is different enough. I mean, houses are different enough from commercial buildings, like the stairs, all kinds of exceptions, what you can and cannot do. It's a lot more lenient in terms of dimensions, I think, right? You get more you can do bigger stair heights and runs and all that kind of stuff. Everybody probably knows. Right. So what I did was I read through the IBC, but then the big key was just kind of not word for word reading, but I think overall just kind of skimming on the thing and tabbing each section. So on the top and the bottom of the book, I would have tabs that listed out exactly like 2 tables and sections, span tables, stuff like that. And then along the side opposite the binder is where I had tabs for all of the.
We should take a picture and throw it on.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So I had tabs for all of the chapters, right?
Yeah.
So now I'm sitting there at the computer.
Yeah. But before that, so I'm going to read through it too. I'm just taking the other tests. And
for ARE, 100% recommended.
What's also great, I think, because I've been in probably almost every chapter. No, I probably haven't been in 3 or 4 chapters, to be honest, of the IBC, just from experience.
Yeah.
So reading through it, I think, will structure. And then what's great is that now, if you don't know the exact answer, you know exactly where to look. So
That's the critical part. That's the critical part.
I swear, just yesterday, the day before, I go, Lance, what do I need to do for this? You're like, let me find the chart. And it was like 2 seconds.
Within 2 minutes.
Yeah. I don't even know what I asked.
Something for stairs. Is there an exception for, so we're doing like an apartment building. Is there an exception
for R2?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now I feel really confident being able to go in and get get information extremely quickly.
Yep. So 3 books. You read them or knew one of them. You're sitting at the test. Now you've taken the architecture test and now the concrete test. The contractor's test. How are the questions?
The questions for the contractor's test reminded me a lot. The only test that was very similar in the ARE that was like the contractor's test was structures. Because structures, I felt as if it would be foolish. Whoever wrote the test got the point of, you can't really be crazy when it comes, like you can't do these triple negative questions and be crazy. So it was very straightforward. And honestly, for me, structures was the easiest test on the ARE. Honestly, I came out of that when I went, I know I passed that. I know for a fact I passed that.
So there was no questions like this. These are the questions that I find are the hardest. Is what is a sustainable issue? What strategy would you use? Right?
Gosh.
And then they'll have 4, and 3 of them would work. And in my head, it depends on not only where we are, but what the budget is. So there's nothing like that. And even in the answers when you study for the ARE, they'll say, D and C are correct, but B is more correct. So there's no more correct.
There's no more correct. There is an absolute, is this correct or not? So there's 80 questions. I had 4 hours to do them. I finished all the questions, went through them twice, and then I had an hour to spare.
Yeah.
So I narrowed it down to, when I would narrow an architecture test down at the end, there would be 15 to 20 where I'm like, I just don't know at all if those ones are right. I have no confidence factor at all, like a 0% confidence factor in that they're right, and it was more or less a 100% guess.
Yep.
This one, 6 questions at the end, and some of them were my fault. I would say half of them are, because this is where I didn't bring the IRC in.
Yeah.
Now, so
just
if you really want to crush this test, bring the IRC in, bring the IBC in. Was the physical
weight of you just bringing it in just too much?
Oh, I couldn't handle it. Yeah, if you haven't noticed, I've lost 5 pounds because I've been doing push-ups in the morning. So yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah. Could you, without giving away specific questions, could you give us what a question might feel like from the contractor's test?
Boy, that's what might it feel like? Honest, they're not ambiguous. So a lot of them. One. How about this? You'll get a diagram. You'll get at least one diagram that you refer to maybe for 4 or 5 different questions. Okay, and in my case, it was a section of a building, and then they had multiple questions about that section that were specific to. Can you use this type of framing for this floor? And then double check the span. Will this span work for certain things?
And then there's tables in the
and then you would go right to the tables. So like I said, when I went through, I probably marked 20 of them that I needed to go back and double check, and then that's how I narrowed to 6. But even those 15 that I was able to find, and then that out of the 20, I could go right to the section and absolutely verify that it was the right answer. There was just no question about it. And like I said, the half of the 6 they were literally, they would say, according to the International Residential Code. And I'm like, wow, shoot. I guess now I'm just guessing.
Yeah.
But they were pretty educated guesses.
Yeah.
So yeah. So there was, I don't know. There's nothing. There was only, I swear, 1 or 2 tricky questions. 1 or 2 ones where you're like, oh, you are misdirecting information, in a certain area, and then asking, and that you're misdirecting by giving information out that really doesn't pertain to identifying the problem.
That you just need to ignore and focus on the
ignore and focus.
Yeah.
So I think to kind of sum up the whole thing though, about if anybody else is looking to do this, do the IRC, do the IBC, bring them both in tabbed. The concrete construction manual, I don't know. It helped. It helped for one question, and it was more of like a strength question. So I don't know if you need to read that one, but I really contend if you're a licensed architect and you've been practicing for at least 2 or 3 years, I think you can go and take the Class A. And then if you take the Class A, the thing about it is you are only going to be referred to the IBC. So in that sense, you could go in and just have the IBC. If you pass the A, you can automatically get the B or the C because it's a lower version. Yeah. Oh, the other cool thing was finish the test.
No, you got B though.
Yeah, I got the B.
Because A, you'll need references and all this other stuff. But
well, yeah. So the A in Denver, you need references from like architects and contractors proving what you've done. But in some cases, some cities you don't.
Okay. You were going to end up, I cut you off.
I was going to say, the other really cool thing that is different between the contractor's test and the architecture test is you know the answer within 5, you know if you've passed within 5 minutes. So this is a bit of a rant here and a rave, but not a rave. I don't understand why I came out of this. So I finished the test, raised my hand, they came and checked me out, checked my ID. Then I went over to the lady's desk who in the lobby.
20 feet away.
20 feet away. She said, "Let me see your ID again." I go, "Okay, here it is." She hands me the paper and says, "Congratulations, you passed." It's this. So we've all heard that all of these ARE tests, the vignette and the multiple choice,
are all scored by the computer.
So
and there is no review.
Are we waiting for? What? Why? What is this protectionist weird? Like, what are we trying to do? You're not helping by build. You're helping build like unconfident professionals.
Yeah.
What's with the mind game is nonsense.
So if we were in charge, if NCARB ever let us in charge of making the test, I think it'd be awesome because it'd follow the principles that we've done since college, which is basically simplify, reduce so that you can have a more profound, powerful answer in the end, right? So if you look at these other professions from a public view, the contractor test, which you know, and then from my doctor friends, I've asked them about the doctor test and how they said it's straightforward, right? But it's actually getting to some meat. And the structures test is straightforward because I don't want to say these are all real subjects, but it seems when you go to PPP and some of these other architecture ones, it becomes more ambiguous. So if we could simplify and reduce, I think our perception in the public eye would actually increase. Because I remember meeting contractors when I was young and thinking, man, they know everything. They know everything.
Yeah, they know everything.
And then as most architects know, once you get some experience, you're like, no, they don't.
But we don't know everything either. So let's,
that's true.
We say that with that kind of regard for it. But even the contractors, all the contractor buddies that I went and talked to and said, hey, what's it like to take the test? They're like, you should have no problem. This should be easier for you than it was for us.
Yep. And when I mean they don't know everything, I mean we're on the job site, there's some problem, and we'll all say our 4 cents, because there'll be 4 people there, the owner, and it's not always going to be the contractor's answer, which is the one that you're going to go with. It's like it's split between everyone. Oh, okay. That was actually a rare good idea by the owner. Let's do that. So overall, man, I wish we don't even have the time, but NCARB, just hire us to redo all of your tests. So that's on a big level. And then on a personal level, what I would say about the AREs is everyone, this is going to be for myself too, don't freak out about having to retake a test. You had to retake a test.
I had to retake
a test. Take a retake test. All the guys that we've probably mentioned on this podcast, our friends, personal friends, had to retake a test. Some of the big people that have these exam guides had to take multiple, tests over and over again because it's subjective. So stop worrying about it because it's not straightforward. And so I'm transitioning to 5.0 and I want to pass both of them, just easily. When I took PPP the second time, it was honestly pretty easy for me. And I don't know what it was. Maybe more things marinated. I was reading for it was probably
an Al Gore marination. Yeah, for sure.
But also I was reading for the other tests and I didn't really study for the PPP again. I took a morning and then a half a day to restudy for it and just looked over Jenny's notes again. And it was super easy. So when I'm going into 5.0, I have no idea what these are going to be like. They might be totally crazy. They might be whatever. So just know that these architectural tests, you're going to have to probably redo one at least.
Yeah. We had friends, I think. Exactly. Everybody. Yeah, you're right. A lot of people have had to redo them. I don't think it's anything to be ashamed of. You just do it and get it done.
Yeah.
It's no big deal.
Yeah. Because it's not.
My goal was to take one every month for 7 months straight and pass them in 7 months. And even though I failed one, I got pissed and said, you know what? Screw this. I'm gonna as soon as I could reschedule it. I rescheduled that one as soon as possible, and then took 2 in 1 week. Structures, it was structures, and then the other one that I failed. So don't be afraid. Just get it done.
Nice.
The last thing about the contractors test, and we can move on, is so the next step for us, and this is a little bit of a development talk, is to figure out how to structure the construction arm. So I've asked for opinions in the entree architect community. It sounds like it's split between you either set up an S corp or an LLC. At the end of the day, though, everybody's saying you need to talk to your CPA and see how you want to set it up. And so we've done that. We started engaging our CPA, and I'm happy to share this hopefully next week and say why we went in a certain way with how we formed the new construction company, which is going to be F14. But we're skipping F13.
Yeah.
I don't know what we'll reserve that for. Maybe that'll be a nonprofit or something. Who knows?
I haven't even told you this yet. And it's great that we have these conversations because we don't have time to talk. I just talked with the contractor for the meeting that I went to yesterday. And I just asked him, are you S Corp or LLC? And he said LLC. And then I asked why. And he's the big boss man. And he's like, I don't know. Someone.
Yeah.
There was a reason. He just doesn't know.
So disclaimer. Talk to your CPA, but we're happy to share.
Yeah, but
why our CPA says it work for our particular situation.
One data point is one successful contractor said LLC.
Yeah.
Like if we talk to every contractor we know and they all say LLC, that's probably the way to go. Too. Yeah. Okay, moving on.
So, congratulations, Mr. Gore. You are not only under contract for a new house, but you are under contract to sell your other house for a record-setting price in your neighborhood. Congratulations.
Yep.
Moneybags Al Gore.
That's my new Al Gore Moneybags, and we're heading to Vegas.
He's like Scrooge McDuck or whatever when he's diving into the remember that?
All the gold.
All the gold.
Yep. Yeah. That's basically me now. So we started cleaning up our house, and I'll go over how I think I got a record price for my house. And then we were going to live in an apartment because we didn't want to do all this. You have to buy a house at the same day. During the same time and all that nonsense. We literally bought and sold and not closed, but received the contract and got the contract on the same day. So it was the most.
How many offers total did you get?
9.
And one of the offers. So one thing to note about Alex's deal was they set a specific time. We mentioned this in the last podcast when they would accept offers, but he got an offer right away. How difficult was it to not look at that offer in detail?
I looked at the offer. I didn't look at the letter.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, there was a letter associated. So tell people about this because this could happen, and I think it's a good liability thing to keep yourself out of weird water because this is like an anti-discriminatory caution, right?
So what happened is I list my house for what one real estate agent told me it was worth, right? And it will probably go above that, but whatever. We didn't really know. This was literally just a week ago that all of this happened. So immediately I got an offer for $5,000 over that. And then I said, no, it's not worth it. I think I'll get more. I think it was listed on, it would be 2 Sundays. Was it? Man, this week flew by.
No, it was.
So two Sundays ago.
Yes.
Yep. And then on Monday or Tuesday, I got an offer for 5 over, and I said no. That was pretty easy. Then they gave me 10 over asking. So right there, it's like, man, this could be simple. I still had stuff to fix up. There's still a showing, all this other stuff. And also they sent me a letter. And I really wanted to read the letter. And my real estate agent said, I advise not to. So I asked my wife, and my wife said, don't do it. I go, why? It's not like they're going to pull at my heartstrings. And she's like, yes, they will. You are very manipulable.
You're very manipulable.
If you see a gimmick on TV, you go and buy that, especially if it's Bud Light or something like that.
Yeah.
And then the real estate agent said the reason why you don't want to is because if they send a picture or something like that indicating sex, gender, race, and if you don't give
Army
it to
vet,
them,
that's one of the things I thought is what if they're a vet and they...
Oh, I would use that.
Yeah.
I would use that. We've used that against the city.
Yeah.
Not for me, but for other clients.
For a client, yeah.
Yeah. You don't want them to have any ammunition like, oh, you didn't choose me because I was a wounded veteran. And and then they could say, oh, maybe I would request that you put in a ramp. I'm just making this up.
Right.
But basically, you want to be as blind as possible. So I listened to the ladies in charge, and I said, fine, I won't do it.
See, we do listen, ladies.
We do occasionally. Then, just to recap, because I know I already went over this, but what I thought was brilliant, not only about listing it for 5 days beforehand, don't let anyone see it, and then have the open house, and then have a deadline when everything's due, is to get a pre-inspection.
Yeah.
And that pre-inspection, and I actually don't care if they get an inspection afterwards. The only reason, the reason why I like the inspection so much is because I did everything on that list. And what I thought was amazing was people that are discerning. So let's say you were buying my house, and you, through your agent, could get that inspection, right? And I bet you do this, I do this. You'd walk through the house and say, I wonder if they did that or not.
Exactly.
Or if it's a big deal.
It sets the whole integrity
Yep.
up.
And Saturday morning, not only I was walking through, there was wood above my electrical panel, which wasn't supposed to be there. There's supposed to be gypsum. So I had to get that out. I had to strip out screws, get that wood out, put in new, caulk it, tape it, paint it over again, just running my butt off. And I just can imagine everyone walking through the house and be like, oh my God, he did this. Oh my God, he did this. Even the stuff the inspector said, like, yeah, that's a kind of lot of work. No one will really expect you to do it. Just did it. I just did it.
What was the cherry on top of the cake that
The cherry was, then that morning, I went to 4 neighbors that had grass that was too long. And I said, hey, can I mow your lawn for you? So
what was their reaction? Surprised or?
One of them said, oh, I'm sorry, I'll do it. I'm like, hey, thank you for being a decent human being. That's what I'm getting at. I'm being nice about it, but maybe you should mow your lawn.
Yeah.
But
did you go up to him and say, hey, I'm selling my house?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And then I invited them to the open house. Hey, I'm your neighbor. I have an open house. I'd love if you'd come. But I want to make the best impression. And I know people will be coming down this street. So can I mow your front lawn for you? And they said, the rest of them said yes. So I mowed three of the 4 neighbors that had the big lawn. And I know that is a psychological subtle thing that helped, because when I was looking at houses, when you drive in, I think you notice that.
Yes.
And I think it makes a difference.
Oh, I think so. 100%. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So then we got, I don't know, above asking, I'm not going to go into the numbers, but more than 10, like 20 plus above asking price.
Mm-hmm.
And our asking price was way higher than what we had the mortgage on. So then I'm able to basically transition into a nicer neighborhood, bigger house, and all that. So that.
You've got a couple more notes on here, though. Tell me about cleaning the glass. What is this? What is that in reference to?
Cleaning the glass is, our agent said, get all your windows cleaned, because it actually makes a huge difference. So Annie went and cleaned all the windows. And the one in front, looking at that big tree, just sparkles. It's insane how well that works. The other thing that I would say is extremely key is sell in a hot market. Honestly, as much as I want to take credit for it, there's maybe if I didn't do all that, there would probably be 2 or 3 less offers and maybe only a couple grand less than my total. I still would have sold it
for everybody who's out of state and not paying attention to the Colorado market. What's going on is we've had a 10 to 20% climb every single year in the value of our home. So like we're just building an insane amount of equity, and it's never real money until you sell it, right?
Yep.
That's the key here, is like everybody should know that this is all made up and speculation until you find a buyer to buy it. And then all of a sudden and you still got to, hopefully it's got to close and all that stuff, right?
Yep.
Knock on wood. But the other, that's all of that is sort of happening. And then also the other factor is anything under 300,000 in this Colorado market, it just flies off the shelf.
Yep. I have a backup offer for more than I'm selling my house for,
which is crazy.
Yep. It's only 1,000 more, so I'm not going to ruin the process or anything like that. The other thing is, if you're going for a house in a hot market, since I was just on this perspective, there was a lot of people that did escalation clauses, which means like my bid is 200,000, but I'll go up to 210,000 or something like that. These aren't the real numbers. But then some people would do, I'm going to just start at 210. And that looked better to me than the escalation clause, because So what I did when I was looking, and if you can put more money down, that also looks better.
So now, are you transitioning into talking about
buying a house.
Yeah. So tell us about that. So so you went under contract to sell your house, and then you went under contract to buy a new house in the same day.
Yes.
How do you nip it in the butt to get the deal you wanted for your new house right away in an incredibly hot market?
Yep. So the week before we sold, Annie and I were driving around the neighborhood that we wanted to move into, and we're just generally looking at the outside of houses. And then you can look at the inside of houses through Zillow and all that. But that was just informal because we were literally planning on just doing whatever. So we get done cleaning our house at 12:30. The opening is at 1 o'clock. So we go have a beer, and then Annie and I are like, let's go to that neighborhood again. We find an open house of one that we don't even know. So we just go in it. It was a little bit above ours. So we're just looking, and it's actually a really, really nice house. And then I go, hey, honey, there's a house that we might like down this path, 200 feet away, literally. And we go and we look at that one, and we're like, nah, that's not going to be the one. But we see a house selling to it 2 houses down. So we go look at in the windows, and we go, this looks pretty good. The location was perfect, and the front inside looks okay. So then we call up our agent and say tomorrow. So that was Saturday. So she just did the open house. Can we look at this house on Sunday? We look at the house. We like it. We look at a whole bunch of different houses online and driving by, and this is a house. So what I do is they're selling it for $230. Again, not the real number. So I said, okay, we'll buy it and my agent said she almost didn't want me to put a bid on it because I don't have the money in my hand right now because I don't have the net profits, So she goes, you're not going to look very competitive. Oh. So my idea was $10,000 more from a starting. I didn't put an escalation clause.
So offer $10,000 more than asking right away.
And then I put down 40. So then they'll go, okay, this guy does have money. And they came back and asked. So then that was Sunday. On Monday, we were going through and we were picking the one that we wanted. And then it was so funny. She was getting a phone call and she didn't want to answer it. I go, no, pick it up because it might be the new house calling. And it was someone trying to buy my house, and then they were raising the price of the house. We're like, okay, we might go with them. And the agent said, oh, sometimes if you don't call and ask, you don't know. So right when we were done picking my house, I go, hey, call that house, see what's up. Call my future house. And all they wanted to know is to see the contract.
Right.
For the one that we just picked minutes earlier, to know that I'll have enough money in cash. And then both of them signed on Tuesday morning, sent it over.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Congratulations again. With that, I think we're going to transition into this week's worst and best advice. And so this is a part 2 segment that features my fiance, Marilyn. So if anybody is looking to relocate, would highly recommend go take a look at her, youredgelongmontrealestate.com. What she's going to talk about on her worst and best advice is best advice and lessons learned from building a house. So she and I built a house last year. It's a custom home, and there were 3 big points that she'll go over, and then Alex is going to react to them at the end. So hope you enjoy it. It's about a 20-minute segment, and here we go. Hey guys, I'm here with my beautiful fiance, Marilyn Ackerman, and she would like to fill us in on this week's segment for, instead of best and worst advice, she's going to tell us 3 big points and lessons learned from building a house for the very first time.
Hi, yeah, I've thought about this, and I think the 3 main points I really would want to pass on and convey to anyone thinking about building a house now or in the future. Just briefly, one of them would be about good design. The second one is about construction creep.
It's not just great design?
Excuse me, great design.
I'm sorry, okay. So number 1, great design.
Great design.
Number 2,
construction creep, and we'll go into what that is. And the third one would be fiduciary duty.
Ooh, fiduciary. I like that word.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So the first one about great design. So what I have learned is that the great design of our house, I think it is really a great modern design that we have, has it probably costs more to begin with to have a personal architect rather than, using a stock plan. But I think it was just so worth it. It would be so worth it. Obviously, I didn't have to pay extra for it, but it would be so.
She's getting an invoice soon. Little does everybody know.
Okay.
Let me ask you this: at what point, honestly, did that point hit you? And I think it had to be after we've lived in it for a while, right?
Oh, it hit me. I think it hit me when I saw the house completed. Immediately when I saw it completed and clean and everything. Clean,
and I think there's been several times we've had guests over where they've walked through.
Yes.
Most recently this weekend, we had a little sleepover. One of our oldest children had a sleepover, and there was one of the fathers came through and he just gushed for I think 2 days in a row on drop off and pickup.
He did. So he really loved our house. Yeah, and it's wonderful when people just come in and they love the house. It feels really good. And it also feels like we've kind of pulled something off here, because what people don't realize is that a lot of the finishes in our house we had to sacrifice on the
sacrifice is a good word. Yeah,
on the finishes.
I like that a lot better than value engineering. So a lot of builders and architects, even contractors, say we're going to value engineer this thing, and it's kind of a dirty word in the industry. But what we did is exactly what she said: is we sacrificed the finishes.
Right, we sacrificed. So I was in charge of picking out all the finishes, and so the first round of picking out the finishes are the floor, the cabinets, the countertops. Doorknobs, lights, and everything.
Plumbing fixtures, that was a big one.
Yeah.
Plumbing fixtures was a giant item for us at one point.
It was. So at first, I thought we didn't quite have the quote on what it was going to cost for the building, and we didn't quite have it that figured out yet. And so the finishes that I first picked were, very, very high end.
Because she has great taste.
Right. Right. Even our builder.
Here's what I thought was really weird, is that everything that looked cool was expensive. It was just,
that's true.
And cool from the standpoint of it was just clean. Why didn't you feel as if the cleaner looking things were more expensive or not?
They absolutely were.
Why? Yeah, I could never understand that. And then so Marilyn was in charge. She was. We joke that I was the architect, she's the interior designer, and she really was. She did a fabulous job, especially even when we sacrificed and went down. It still looks nice and clean, and that's one of the points she's getting to. But go into a little bit more about when you went into specifically so it's called, in the Denver metro area, it's called the Design Center. And what it is these series of warehouses that you go into and you pick out tile and plumbing fixtures and all and light fixtures. You and I went to that. So tell us about like your experience from start to finish, seeing what you saw, and then prices revealed and all that.
Right. Okay. So for the floors, countertops, and even cabinets, you go in there and you pick out what you really like, and then 2 to 3 weeks later, they tell you how much it's going to cost, because then they've figured out.
So there wasn't a price tag.
No price tags. No price tags. So it took me 3 tries at the flooring countertop place to get to where I was just going, what is the cheapest thing I can buy here to fit in our budget? Because, a lot of our budget did go to really awesome things like the windows and really great things like that.
Yeah. So some things that we didn't sacrifice on were absolutely the windows. Everybody in our neighborhood, or even the town at this point, they say, "Oh, you guys live in the glass house." So we have a lot of glass. Some other things we didn't shrink any of the square footage. We kind of stayed with the floor plan as it were. So one of the big things was, again, just we're sacrificing on the finishes. We have a lot of like drywall returns in the windows and stuff like that. So how many iterations do you think you went through when you picked out the finishes before we finally were done?
Probably 2 to 5 on each different one. And each one would be like, maybe the floor would be one, the countertops would be another. the plumbing another, the lights another. So just to get it down to budget. And here's what I'm really getting at is our house looks amazing and fantastic, and people think that a lot of the things we have are high end, even though a lot of the things are the least expensive things that I liked at these different showrooms. So I think it's sort of like people are seeing what they want to see when they come in our house, because the design is overwhelmingly nice, and then the finishes are pretty good. They're new. They're pretty good. And people think they're high end. It's like when I was taking drawing classes in college, I wanted to put a horse in my sort of abstract drawing, and I think I was like mulling this over, and my art teacher, and I was like, I can't draw a horse though. That's hard. and my art teacher was like, just hint at a horse. Just hint at a tail.
Oh, yeah.
You can draw a tail.
I like that, yeah.
You can draw an ear. You can draw one leg, okay?
Yeah.
And he's like, and people are going to see that as a really well-drawn horse, because the rest of your drawing is sort of this abstract thing that's really working.
Right.
It's really working.
It's more about the gesture.
It's the gesture.
And
people's minds are filling in, oh, really good drawing of a horse. No, it's not. It's a terrible drawing of a horse, but your mind thinks it's good.
Yeah.
And that's what happens with our house.
I feel like I should name our house Smoke and Mirrors at this point.
Right.
Except real smoke and mirrors. Because it is actually, I think, even the framer, I had a meeting with the framer. So since then, one of the great things about this transaction too is that our firm eventually became one of the developers' architecture firms. So it's been good from that standpoint too. But I had a meeting with the framer of the developer, and he said, your house is really small for what it is. He's like, it's spatially, walking through it and everything, and you see all the mountain views and all the, all the windows and everything, and you feel like you're outside, but you're inside. It feels right. We like to joke that it's like the mini mansion, right? Because it's not very much square foot. It's not very much square feet at all. Right.
But a lot of the kids that come over, they think we live in a mansion. They call it a mansion. Like, is this, they'll ask, is this a mansion?
It's not either. Honestly, we have 2,500 square feet on the main floor and the upper floor. And in that 2,500 square feet, we have 3.5 bathrooms and 6 bedrooms. So it's compact, but it feels very spacious. I never feel cramped in the house.
No, and we have this 45-inch wide circular chandelier. When I think that's one of the things that clues people's minds into, oh, this is a mansion. This huge chandelier, but it was one of the ones that was not that expensive.
No,
it wasn't.
Right?
No,
I think that's
yeah.
There was another thing we cut out. We sacrificed on was the lighting. So we have this the foyer. The foyer I think is about 28 feet tall. It's pretty huge, and that's where we said, well, we'll just put a light fixture in later, right?
Yeah.
Same thing. I think in the living room. Other places like that, we cut down on the lighting.
Right, and then we haven't added those things, but we haven't really needed them that much.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy with it, and I get a kick out of fooling people. Like the person who helped us with that pool, which I think is another mansion kind of item, indoor pool.
Yeah, so you walk into our foyer, and there's a 3 foot wide by 12 foot long koi pond. It's like 3 or 4 inches deep. It's not actually a koi pond. It's a goldfish pond.
But people think it's koi.
They associate that, right?
Uh-huh.
So it's like the smoke and mirrors pool.
So the person who did that pool told me, we need some backsplash tile, and he's like, I can get you, the finest, from Italy at this showroom. They have the very high end. And I was like, oh, high end? I was like, oh, nothing in this house is high end.
Yeah.
And he was like, what? I was like, oh, well, yeah. That was like the first month we lived here, and I was realizing people think it's very high end.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we have 4 kids. We don't really want to have a lot of high end.
No. Another thing
table,
I wanted was glass garage doors.
Oh, right.
Yeah. The price got really crazy at one point. I don't know. We had to cut a lot. I think it was like $100K at one point. It was a ridiculous amount. So
yeah. So
yeah.
Anyways,
but design
I'm happy
matters.
with it.
Design matters. Number one, design
matters.
absolutely matters. But so why do you think design matters? So do you think design matters for resale value, or just design matters in general for building a house for the first time? In that that's the way you should. If you're gonna build a house, it might only happen once in your life. Design it well.
I think design it well, and you're going to be very happy because within whatever you put in your house is just going to look that much better. With
so
the
there
better
you go.
design. Because I had in my other house that was half of this price, less than half of this price. I had very high quality floors, much better floors.
Actual hardwood.
Actual
could
hardwood.
be refinished.
Lovely. Yes.
Backsplashes.
But but that house was a kind of a track home, and
What was it, like an 80s track home?
1983.
Yeah. 80s track home.
Yeah. And I mean, I have this friend who's an interior designer, and I know what, and you know what she says? She says, like if you're going to overdo a house, she's like, you can't polish a turd. Right? Like I was sort of polishing a turd.
As the old saying goes, you can't polish a turd.
So, I mean, that's what I was essentially doing in that house.
That was an explicit episode.
That's right.
It's true. Yeah. It's true. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, great. Yeah, I agree. I think design matters too. I absolutely 100%. Okay. Next lesson.
The next lesson I learned, and you warned me about this, was construction creep. So that this is a really important one for.
And we're not talking about the construction creep that's hiding in the basement of the construction site. We're talking about the cost.
We're not
of
talking
construction.
about Larry.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cost of construction. So this was a tough one, and I didn't even want to believe it at first, but you told me, and it was true, that from the time you build a house to the time you finish, the cost goes up.
Yeah.
So if you have what we had, which was, what is it called, an open book or an open ledger?
So one of the other deals that we got with our project was that I could be the architect, but the other one was that we could do an open book. So we could see exactly every single cost, even down to the percentage of the contractor, and we could evaluate and cut things and do have a little bit more control of the situation.
Right. So what happens over the course of the 18 months or so of the building is that prices go up about close to 10% for a lot of things, like such as, I think, drywall maybe went up 10%. There were a few things that went up.
Yeah, we drywall at the turn of, I can't remember that, the first of some year, they decided they were going to go up 10%. So the subcontractor for this developer just let him know in advance, hey, we have to raise our prices. So not only is there just labor costs, and one of the things to point out here, I think that's important, is that 10% cost. I don't think you could blanket that across the country. I think we're in a unique situation in Colorado. We're we're in the building boom of the United States, in the middle of it. But at the bottom line, there'd be at least like a 4% increase for inflation, right? Over 18 months.
Well, inflation of labor costs and materials. I mean, when we went down the list, when we got our first itemized list, and then from that one to the last one, everything just went up something like 10%. Almost all of these 300 line items just went up. Yeah. Almost all of them.
Mm-hmm. I think maybe 2 or 3 went down. It wasn't much. And the 2 or 3 went down. It was like, oh, we saved $100. It was nothing.
Right, and that really,
in the scheme of things,
and that really adds up. So I would want anyone building a house to be aware of that.
Just be cognizant.
And
plan for this 10% flux.
Plan for that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're gonna have a house that you can't pay for, unless you have planned for that, or you have a different arrangement with your builder, which is what they're probably going to do. Is then they're aware of this. They're probably going to charge a little bit more at the beginning. They're probably going to add that margin in there. Mm-hmm. And you're going to pay for it either way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But then you would know the price up front.
Yeah. Or honestly, I guess this is me on the fly thinking, maybe you try to get a fixed fee from the beginning and you say, this is it. It's set in stone. We're done at like whatever as early as in the process as you can get that to happen. And then maybe they're like a builder that doesn't realize the 10% creep.
And then
you know what I mean? I mean, that's just me
time.
being completely honest about the situation. Like, I don't know, maybe somebody forgets about it at the end of the day, but you know, we're trying to help people that are building the house for the first time.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah. So I guess the last thing would be about my job as the real estate agent for this and as the homeowner. And a lot of this came into play at the end, at closing, where I had walked through the house before closing, of course, and I saw a lot of issues and a lot of things not done right or damaged, and then thoroughly documenting all those items at closing. I mean, I was putting letters on sticky notes and sticking them on the places and taking pictures, and
taking photos with their tablet.
I mean, I got up to like a P or something of like the letters. You know, I mean, it was a lot of pictures and things to document, and then lists too, aside from the pictures, just lists of things.
Yeah.
And so that's something that as the homeowner, I don't know that you would always be prepared to do that, to go into that kind of documentation on the day that you're closing.
I don't think the average homeowner is ready for that.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
And it was not like on TV where like somebody, you know, drops a drop cloth in front of your home and then you see it for the first time and it's magnificent. I mean, it was filthy, you know, and things didn't work. And
not only that, but you have been, if you're building a house for the first time, you've kind of been through hell for at least, I think, 30 days at a minimum. And for us, it was, you know, there was all kinds of periods of where it got really stressful and it was kind of a difficult thing to deal with. But for 30 days, you're going to be either moving out of some other place into a new place, and then at the same time, like, you are desperate to just get into this freaking thing that is costing probably one of the most. It's probably the thing you spent the most money on in your life so far, and you've seen it dirty every day. You've seen it like nicked up and all this kind of stuff. So for you to have a fresh eye to the whole thing.
Oh, that's true.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you're saying about the unveiling in a short way. But, you know, to like back up the whole process and think about it from that perspective too. One of the superintendent of that worked on our house, he said, you know, trust me, there's things you'll see over the next week. So one of the things we did have in our contract was there's sort of a grace period after you move in where you can document further things that you see.
Yeah, it's a few days or a week.
Yeah. So so back to, I think what you're getting at here is, you need to be prepared if you're building for the first time with this process that's coming up, this year warranty that a lot of people have when they move into a house, right?
Absolutely, to be prepared, because what happened was some things that I documented on that day and asked for every, 2 to 4 to 5 weeks.
For a while, honestly, she was every week, which is great.
Every week.
It was almost a weekly email.
There was, yeah.
but that kind of tenacity, I really, from an outside perspective, is paramount. You know, because she, to credit Marilyn 100%, she has been responsible for basically all of the repairs in the warranty of the house so far. Especially, one of the big ones is like our countertop. But there was, for her to get things going, it seemed like it would have to be every week or every 2 week reminder. So I think like a consistent interval. It might not have to be every week. That might have been too much, but because in hindsight now we're thinking it might have been too much.
Well, for the first 5 weeks or so, I was probably talking to Kyle 4 times a week, just because we were coordinating people coming in and out of the house, But the reason for the documenting, because everything that you agree on day one when you move in, because you do a walkthrough with your superintendent and your real estate agent the first day, everything you agree on that needs fixing or needs to be repaired because it's been damaged by other workers, it doesn't mean that everyone's going to remember that 2-3 months from now when they've already taken care of 15 other things on your list they're not. And then, because it came back to me where they said, oh, no, you did that. I think you did that damage to the countertop. We don't have, because you've been there 5 months now, or you did that damage. And so I had to go back to the email from the move-in day with the photo, with my stupid sticky note on the scratch, and say, no, here it is. Because otherwise they were going to put it on us, because that much time does go by where your things don't get done and people forget.
Yeah. So one of the bigger things that we got replaced was our countertop. And how many tries did it take for you to get that replaced? And so there was some negligence by a subcontractor. They drug a big piece of equipment over the top of it. There was a big scratch, but it took you, I think, 3 or 4, maybe 5 tries to where we finally proved that, hey, there's no repairing this. This is damaged property.
Right. They sent out 3 different people to repair it, and they all looked at it and said they couldn't do it. And that was over a period of 4 months or so. And so they sent those 3 people out, and then I asked again. They're like, well, you guys did that damage anyway. When I wanted it replaced, I had to go prove it. So 3 people over like 4 months, and then finally getting the replacement maybe in the 5th month.
Yeah.
So it was a long time. It was a lot of persistence and having to meet people here.
And we right now we're about 6 to 7 months, 6.5 months through the whole year warranty. We still have more items to take care of. So, maybe we'll do like a follow-up podcast where we see if we get through all of them. I have no idea. I am very interested to see if there's just a cinch up at the end of going through this building process and getting everything taken care of, what we paid for.
Oh, that would be amazing.
What we hope for, I have no idea.
That would be amazing.
But it's an experiment. So, okay. So those are great points, lessons learned. Thank you for sharing with us tonight.
Sure, happy to.
So would you recommend doing the building process overall to everybody?
Oh, I would recommend it to people who can, well, I guess who can wait for the time that they need and be flexible, and people who really want it. I would say it's if it's your dream and you really want it, then you'll do it. It's not for the faint of heart because I think we thought we were going to be moving in maybe 5-6 months earlier than we did.
And we did not.
We did not. So it takes a lot. So if you really want it and you're willing to go through these ups and downs, and that's who I would recommend it to if you just really, really want to do it.
Yeah. All right, Marilyn. Well, thanks for your time today. How can everybody get a hold of you? If somebody's looking to do a real estate transaction in Boulder County, let us know how we can get a hold of you. Where can we find you on the internet?
Oh, my website is youredgeinlongmontrealestate.com.
How about your email?
Email, Marilyn.ackerman@coloradohomes.com.
Okay. All right. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Marilyn. I thought that was great. I thought those points were excellent. The first one I'll touch on from just my perspective of design matters. There's a fancy neighborhood just south before Denver, in between Longmont and Denver. And I always love looking at cost per square footage. So there's a traditional Tuscan house and then there's a modern house. And they're both about the same square footage. They're about the same bedrooms. And their modern house cost per square foot is more. And what's great about that is okay, so modern cool architecture can get you more in return than these traditional houses, which was awesome. And the second part is design versus your finishes. And I think that's so key. And there's 2 main things I think you can do in design that always enhance no matter what your budget is. One is tall ceilings, and 2 is windows. What does your house have? Both those.
So the main floor is 9-foot ceilings. The upper floor is 8-foot ceilings.
But
we have a huge 2-story foyer when you walk in with a little koi pond, and then these custom stairs. So we did spend a little bit of money there on the finishes, right? And then you keep going further into the house, and then there's a 2-story dining space. Yeah. Huge, and then nearly zero hallways. Yep.
So when I lived
And
in
a ton of glass. So there's like a ridiculous amount of pellet glass.
Yep. So and then Lance didn't go crazy on his finishes or anything like that whatsoever. Even like
there was stuff that at first just pained me to death as an architect.
Yeah.
And so a level 5 finish is what I wanted. I wanted a museum level finish on my walls.
Did you get that?
We did not get that. So we went to level 3 and we have orange peel.
Yep.
But we don't I just, I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't bug me.
but those two things, the glass and the tall ceilings, your kitchen. So I like your cabinets. I love your kitchen, but your cabinets are not like
No. They're lower end cabinets. All they do is look really clean.
Yeah.
It's just super clean lines. They're not 100% where you can't see any vertical pieces between the cabinets, which is like a tell sign like, that's kind of a builder level. But they look modern because they're so clean.
In Fargo, I lived in an old wood storage building that was made out of concrete double T's, right? Mm-hmm. And I almost expected this place to suck. But what it had, since it was a wood storage place, you've been in there.
Yeah.
It had 14-foot ceilings, and then the double T's were facing outside, and I was on the west side. So you need fins for shading. They didn't do it because of that, but they just did the cheapest, dumbest construction. So the light that would bounce into my 14-foot little bedroom was perfect. It was an amazing space, not because of any finish whatsoever, only because of tall ceilings and that nice light coming in.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Second point you guys made was construction creep. And what I'm wondering from your perspective, and especially since our future development is, let's say we put in there a 5% construction creep.
Yep.
Whatever.
We're counting for inflation.
Yep.
Stuff like that.
Do we secretly on the back end, without putting in the budget, say, okay, we should raise enough money or have enough wiggle room in our construction loan for an extra 5%?
Yeah, I think it's a minimum of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where it comes in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It just happens. It just happens. People cost more as the years go on, and there's inflation, fiat currency, the whole deal.
And I would even say, let's say you budget for a 10% construction creep in everything. For some reason, I feel like it always gets taken up. So I think you need a separate, secret way to cover that 5% that's going to go over budget. That's what I'm getting at.
I see. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Somehow we got to figure that out.
Yep. I forgot this one. I can't read my last note. Document everything.
Document everything. Yeah. So if you build a new house, you have a year warranty basically, because there's going to be settlement. Things need to get fixed. Things are not always going to work correctly.
Yep. And I would say this is key for our development and moving in as developers and anyone else. We need a file system. We need every stove. Everything we have, we just need to put it in there. And it's just, I think it's a great reminder and something that just needs to happen. And it goes to, like you said, everyone buying a new house, building a new house, developers, just get that paperwork.
So this is a good little segue, I think, into some on-the-fly development talk that I've had an idea about, and that is, so one thing I wish they would have done for my house is I wish they would have. We did a walkthrough with a punch list at the end, and then that's where Marilyn documented everything that was screwed up, and then she followed through and fixed, and we got things fixed. Like we got our waterfall countertop fixed, which is huge for us. But what I really wish they would have done is I wish they would have said, "Hey, here's how your furnace works. Here's how to program your garage door opener, stuff like that." There's some townhomes that we did. There's some a manual, exactly, an operations manual. So I think it would help with any kind of weird. First of all, it would take away 90, maybe 75% of the questions from everybody. Then we got to deal with only 25% after that.
And you can train them, because if they ask a question, you go, "Hey, that's in your manual. If you could find that, or I'll send you a PDF. Go to page 5."
Exactly.
And then after I ask 3 questions and realize they're all in the manual, maybe they'll just look in the manual.
Exactly. So I want to develop something like that for our development. And one other thing is an idea from a developer based on, so when you do these, we're doing 3-story, basically, essentially townhomes. When you do these 3-story townhomes, if you only put 1 furnace on them, I think we're aiming for 2, right? So we don't have this problem.
No, we put them in the first floor, so heat rises. On some of the ones that are inefficient, we put them on the upper floors. So that's how we're getting.
Yeah. But one of the things, so there was a lot of the tenants in one of these buildings was complaining to the developer, and they said, it's too cold, and the lower floor, the middle floor is hot, and the upper floor is like ridiculous or something like that. I would even like to write into the manual, here's how you adjust your vents.
First floor totally open, middle floor halfway open, third floor basically
we
closed.
even had to do that. And the other thing I would throw in is and a lot of developers don't do this, but this would alleviate a lot on our end because with our house, one of the things we did was we paid $500 to get all the ducts cleaned. I would suggest we just go ahead and include that as a fee, that as a thing that we do before we sell the product, is get all the construction debris out of the vents. Every single house in our neighborhood, everybody had to do it privately. Nobody got that included with theirs.
You could just tell. Like, you could just tell the ducts needed to be clean when you see
it made them inefficient. Yeah. It made them so they were not. And this is a brand new, extremely, like a near net zero house that we live in.
Yeah. I feel like that should just be included.
Yeah. So thanks again, Marilyn. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
You have some surprise questions?
I got a surprise thought. And then surprise question for you, okay? One is, have you heard of the V?
The V?
Yep.
Like the
dip.
flying V?
Nope.
No.
Well, you probably haven't heard about it because I just made it up right now.
Oh, okay.
We have these conversations, and we just met with another architect. We meet with people all the time. And I think your ability to succeed is correlated to your ability to take and survive the V or the dip. So me and my house just sold a new house, making a good profit. I'll have money left over, but just sold my house and buying a new house. I'm paying for inspections. I'm paying for title closing. I'm paying for all this stuff. Al Gore is not broke, but getting there. Mm-hmm. And it's always this pinch. And if you think about hiring your first person, they come on, you got to pay them. Their work hasn't been reimbursed yet. Building the tiny houses, the first one, Atlas, we're spending all that money. It didn't really come back till we made number 2 and number 3. And even then, there's this pinch until we even got that money. Because, I normally start out a project, then you get in the construction. And then even that V got so severe with that, you had to say, even though I was on the job site, Al, you got to take over these last 2 weeks and be construction manager. And then you came in the last week and buttoned it all up. But there's the bigger the V, if you do it right, the bigger the upside on the other side.
Equal and opposite reaction, 100%.
Yep. And that, I wanted to know if you agreed with that. And then the other point I just kind of make to everyone is don't make self-inflicted Vs, because the real Vs are going to be hard enough.
So I agree with it. And what I think it comes down to is you need to somehow be able to recognize the V and know where the bottom of the V is, and then set yourself up to be able to survive it. So when you're hiring somebody, I think one of the big things that we was
like right now, 2 people.
Yep, with our last two hires was we need to make sure the deposit for the new big project gets into our bank account before the first set of payroll. And the way we set up payroll with the first 2 was we had them start so that we knew that the check would be in there by the time we'd have to hit the first payroll, which this is now our biggest payroll to date, right?
Yep.
So now every 2 weeks it's like, oh wow, that's a number we haven't had to account for a while.
Yeah,
ever.
Yep. And then it's still, even though you did that mitigation, it's still okay. We have these people, and the dip between the payroll and their expense, because they produce a whole bunch, but that does, we say so they might do 2 weeks or a month worth of work before it gets billed out, and then people are supposed to give us our check in a month, but they might not. Mm-hmm. So it's you're dealing with this heavy payroll for probably 2 to 3 months before everything gets cashed.
I'd say it's a minimum of 2 months.
Yep.
A heavy payroll, and that's when you're going down in the V, and then maybe month 3 or month 4 after hiring new people, you start pulling out of that V.
Yep. So my second kind of secret thing is I'm listening to Cayko podcast. It's awesome. And he was talking about one concept of lead yourself, right? And sometimes we dish out advice. It's like we have a podcast and we dish out. And do you take it yourself? Do you take that advice yourself? So one thing we tell students all the time, especially when they're starting to design, is that your end result, whatever you make, is a product of the quality of the question you ask yourself in the beginning, right? How a skyscraper could grow is a perfect example of that. Mm-hmm. So my question to you is, what questions are we asking F9, or can we ask F9 that will lead to a bigger result in the end?
Lately, I've been asking, are we doing are we doing what we want to do every day? Or at least are we trying to do what we want to do every day? So for me, that has been my mantra for about the past month. And it's helped me like relieve stress. And it's also helped me, it's also started to align with the timing of certain marketing things we're starting to do. So earlier this week, as you know, as some of you might know, I updated our website, which is huge for us. It finally got Alex back on board to not totally hate the website.
Yeah, good job. Thank you.
It's pretty decent. I'm really excited about it because for the first time in literally our firm's very small, under a decade existence, we have on our webpage, on the select work site portion of it, almost every building is built. So this is huge for us because where we started F9 Productions, the idea is, you hit F9 in the keyboard in 3ds Max, you turn out a rendering.
Yeah.
We're starting the firm just basically off of renderings and convincing people to hire us so that stuff gets built, right? So, but what aligned with that was we were also on yesterday, our episode with the Art of Construction podcast, which I highly recommend anybody to go check out. Devin Tilley over at Mountain View Windows does a phenomenal job. It's one of the best produced podcasts that I think we've been on so far. It was just really well done. It was
4 people. It was more gregarious. That.
Oh, it was hilarious. Yeah. There were some really, really funny points on it. But what I'm getting at is like, all of a sudden that was, I knew that was coming out. So I felt like what I want to do is get F9 back up to speed on the website, back up to the marketing. And that's what's driving me, not actually designing buildings. And then I just kind of tried to go with the flow of where the universe was telling me to go.
Yep.
And then once that Art of Construction podcast went up, I went and checked our numbers for our podcast. It instantly went up. The views on our Facebook page, like I knew all of this kind of media storm was coming, so we better have our ducks in a row. And for me, that was the least stressful. And I know, like, again, we're on the right road here. So that's where I am at personally and professionally.
I think that's a great perspective. And then I have a slightly different perspective because we're different people. So in a broader scope, I went and when I didn't have an answer right away. So I was like, how can I ask this question without an answer? So I looked at some of the other companies, and here's some examples, right? So if you think about SpaceX, their question is how to create a dual planet civilization. Like, that's such a big question.
Dual planet civilization.
Right? So that, humans are on two planets. Amazon, how to make the world comfortable buying online. And that drives a whole bunch of, it gives you, especially SpaceX, it gives you purpose and gives you direction. Google, this is Google's actual mission statement, but it can be a question, right? To organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. So if you just add how to that, how to organize the world's information, like, okay, that can be that filter when people are deciding what to do. And Facebook to give people power to share and connect the world. So here's one that I think you'll kind of agree on F9. And it's funny that you said that F9, that render business, rendering to real. How can architects become master builders again? And I think we're asking that question.
Yeah.
And what's great is that it links back with our name. F9 is just a render key, but if we, some of this AI stuff, some of this printing stuff, some of this us being in the field. So it's literally, going in the computer and making it. And our new F9 is that it's printed in reality, not in just rendering.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Boom. You heard it here. Cool. Okay, last thing we're going to wrap up with today. Everybody loves it. Code questions.
Woo, woo, woo.
So
I've been 100 for 100. Don't listen to any of our previous podcasts.
All right. So we're going to continue with Chapter 12 from the International Building Code, Interior Environments, okay? So this is Section 1208.2, Minimum Ceiling Heights. This should be a layup for you. I'm warming you up. Okay, I'm warming you up.
I thought we already talked about this.
We did, but this pertains to more than just corridors, okay? Because that was out of Chapter 10,
okay.
Means of Egress. So occupiable spaces. What?
Time out. When last time when you talked about means of egress, and you said the height was 7'6" that you needed, and I said 7 foot in my answer. Do you remember? And I think there is. I want to prove myself right. If you go on a mezzanine, and the mezzanine has certain restrictions, it has to be a third. That only has to be 7 foot.
That's correct.
Bam.
Yeah.
So not all means of egress have to be 7'6" because there's exceptions.
There's some exceptions.
Yeah, cool.
No. Means of egress, you got to be 7'6".
No, but not in a mezzanine level.
But that's kind of like its own room space.
No, but you can travel through that.
Yeah, so there you go.
Yeah.
But can that be? I don't know if that
Part
can
of
be.
your means of egress.
Exactly.
It can.
Oh, okay. Then you're good. So
Yeah.
part of it can. Yeah. All right. Occupiable spaces, habitable spaces, and corridors shall have a ceiling height of not less than what? A, 80 inches. B, 7 feet. C, 7'6". D, 8 feet.
I want to say 7 feet. 6'8" is just door height. That seems ridiculous. So I'm going to say 7 foot.
7'6".
I think I'm just used to so much IRC.
I wish everybody could have saw his face. Oh man, we got to get a video going on this at some point.
Yeah.
It was hilarious.
So IBC, you're just 7'6".
Yep.
Yeah.
Except.
Oh, nice.
So this is part 2 of sort of the question. Okay. Bathrooms, toilet rooms, kitchens, storage rooms, and laundry rooms shall be permitted to have a ceiling height of not less than how many feet? 80 inches, 7 feet. So sorry, A, 80 inches, B, 7 feet, C, 7'6", D, 8 feet.
So 80 inches is 6'8", just for everyone's FYI.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go on a streak and say 7 foot.
Yes! Ding, 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 ding. Correct. Correct. All right, good. You got that right. All right. Yeah, we need to get the air horn in here.
We have an air horn at our firm.
Yeah. Okay, Chapter 12, Interior Environments. Okay, now this is an exception of 1208.2, okay? Exception number 2. If any room in a building has a slope ceiling, the prescribed ceiling height for the room is required, which the prescribed ceiling height in this case would be, let's just say 7 feet, okay?
Okay.
The prescribed ceiling height for the room required in what is required in what percentage of the area thereof? Yep. A, 33%, B, 50%, C, 66%, D, 75%. So in other words, if you have a room and there's a ceiling height that you're trying to adhere to based on what we said in the previous 2 questions, what percentage of that floor area needs to be at that ceiling height?
50%.
Correct, sir. Whoop, whoop. All right. Last question here. We'll wrap it up for the day. Chapter 14, Exterior Walls, Section 1405.16, Fiber Cement Siding. Unless,
6 inches.
Yeah, you wish. Unless otherwise specified in the approved manufacturer's instructions, nails used to fasten the siding to wood studs shall be corrosion resistant, round head, smooth shank, and shall be long enough to penetrate the studs by at least how much? A, 3/4 of an inch, B, 1 inch, C, 1 1/4 inch, D, 1 1/2 inch. So fiber cement siding, you're installing it on the exterior wall. How far do the nails need to penetrate into the studs?
1 1/4.
That is incorrect.
Ooh.
And I was going to call one of our good friends or text him and let him know that it's not actually 1 1/4, because I remember him telling me multiple times for the ARE that 1 1/4, you should just remember that. Like,
that's where I got it.
Yeah.
But is it just different? Is he correct besides for fiber cement?
He might be. I don't know. So the answer is 1 inch.
1 inch.
Which I thought was
It's kind of little.
That's pretty little. It's only this. It's only as big as the first knuckle from the fingertip to your knuckle of your pointer finger.
The tip, is probably close to half an inch almost.
Mm-hmm.
So
it seems like not enough. Personally, I would do at least 1 1/4, maybe 1.5 inches, and prescribe it that way.
Yeah.
So,
hey, great questions. And just to clarify, I know Lance said this on the last one when we were talking about masonry coming down to.
Oh yeah, yeah. We had a listener question here.
It was, and I just missed this part. It's just what we were talking about was for veneer only.
Oh, it just adhered to.
Adhered.
Like absolutely 100% adhered. No 1 inch cavity.
Yep.
For brick. We're talking about brick that is just adhered to a 1 or 2 story building.
Yep. Because you had to be at least 4 inches away from grade for that. Where if you just have regular masonry, you can have a brick ledge below. You can go to, it doesn't matter. You can stick it right next to the ground if you want.
Yep, if there's the 1-inch cavity.
So, hey, thanks for listening. Please review us on iTunes. You can do it right from your phone. If you have any questions, comments, email me, akg@f9productions.
Follow us on the Facebook. Follow us on the Twitter. Check us out on SoundCloud. We'd love to hear from you. And shout out to Kurt Kruger and Nicholas Renard. Really looking forward to hearing you guys hopefully soon on the podcast. I've asked you guys to send in some worst and best advice. And anybody else who listens, we'd love to hear your worst and best advice. Okay, see you next week.